Dr. Rosen, can dairy make allergy symptoms worse? The question asker mentioned it in conjunction with creating more mucus when you have a cold. So how does it relate here? Especially since, this isn't part of her question, but since, you talked about organic dairy being such important to buy.
Right. No, I think I'm glad that somebody brought that up, because that's where the sort of nuance comes in. It's very clear that milk and dairy products are not okay for everyone, and that for those people who can tolerate them, you should absolutely use organic products, and yogurt has wonderful, cultures and probiotics. However, in some children and adults, cow's milk and even other animal milks can be inflammatory. And by that I mean they can create, either in the digestive system or in the respiratory system, in the nose and mouth and chest, they can produce phlegm and mucus. And for some people, that absolutely makes things worse. And if you feel worse when you drink milk or when you eat dairy products, you should stay away from them. There are alternatives that don't contain cow's milk, which would, for some people, include soy or rice or almond or hemp or other animal milk such as goat's milk. Some people even think that raw milks don't cause the same problems, and there's all kinds of questions about pasteurization or not. But in general, I definitely think if I have a child who has chronic congestion or is phlegmy and has been eating a lot of dairy in their diet or in the mother's diet and they're nursing, I tend to remove that to see how they respond. Now, when you do that, you have to be mindful about protein, because that can be a major source of protein for a lot of people, and calcium and vitamin D, which are supplemented in milk. There are many other ways to get those, but you just have to be mindful of that.
And can you speak a little bit more about why organic dairy is such an important food to buy in organic?
Sure. Yeah, I think if you're going to choose, because the level of contamination in conventional dairy is so concentrated, and kids especially tend to drink a lot, that you're getting a real big load of pesticides, hormones, and antibiotics. Now, you'll see, the organic label does mean that you are free of those components, which all have, significant theoretical negative health issues. There are local farms that can't afford to get the organic label, which will say they are hormone-free or antibiotic-free. And, if you know the farm really well and you trust them and it's locally obtained, that may be fine, but the organic label is at least one quality control way we know that you can avoid those additives. So I think one of the reasons why dairy is so important is that it's a big part of people's diets and it's very concentrated.
Great. Can you also talk a little bit more about kids under 2, about can we diagnose them that early, and what should we know about what not to give them?
Oh, in terms of can you diagnose allergies in those kids?
Yes.
Is that, yeah? Yeah, again, my training, I was always taught young kids don't have seasonal allergies. Well, after I'd been in practice for a year or two, I quickly realized that that's not true. There were, babies that were 6 months old, their parents would take them outside, and as soon as they hit the outdoors, in April or May, their eyes would swell up and their nose would run, and they'd come in and they would be fine, and there was a strong family history. So young children can get seasonal allergies. It is fairly rare at young ages, and we're not exactly sure why that is. It does appear to be increasing in younger kids, just like a lot of other things, food allergies, etc. I'm always a little more wary about treatments, including conventional pharmaceutical treatments as well as herbal and botanicals. In young kids, we just have less data. Their bodies are smaller. However, many of the food-based things that I mentioned, certainly would seem to be recognized as safe if they're in foods that kids can eat. And as I started to mention with solid feeding, we're now understanding that as young as 4 to 6 months, babies can tolerate a lot of fruits and vegetables and food-based things that we used to think might not be the case. We no longer believe they have to start with boring things like just rice cereal, and that the quality of the grains and the fruits and vegetables is very important. So starting early on with foods that are rich in antioxidants and anti-inflammatories is certainly possible as young as 4 to 6 months.
I think we have time for just one more question, and we just got an interesting one from a listener who said that she breastfed her child, supplemented with formula for the first 8 months, but he still developed allergies and asthma. And she wants to know if it's because she didn't breastfeed exclusively.
Well, I certainly would go out of my way to say it's great that she was able to breastfeed for as long and as much as she could, and that is protective in whatever you can do. Um, it's a very intensely personal decision. It's not always possible to exclusively breastfeed. A lot of this person's history might depend on their family history and their genetic history. They may be loaded for allergies and maybe prevented the child from having worse symptoms such as severe asthma. It's hard to know. However, when possible, exclusive breastfeeding does seem to reduce the risk. And in that case, I might have looked at what type of formula and what mom was eating while she was nursing too. Those might have played a small role, but I'm sure any amount of breastfeeding was not harmful, was helpful, and may have prevented things from getting worse.
Well, great. Well, we are just about done with our time here today. So thank you so much, Dr. Rosen, for your presentation. And are there any last words of wisdom you'd like to share with the attendees?
Well, I'm just glad that they all were able to come on board and ask questions, and I'm honored to help you launch this. And I think it's a great place for families and parents to come and learn about living in a natural way, which obviously we both support. So thank you for having me.
Great, thanks. And to everyone who's out there, if you want to learn more about our webinar series, Kiwi College, and just lots more about the practical ways to live a greener, healthier life, please join us anytime at kiwimagonline.com. And we have a great sister site, greenmomsmeet.com, you should check out. And join us on Facebook, too, if you're on Facebook. It's a great way to keep up to date with everything we're doing here at Kiwi and with contests and giveaways that we do. Thank you all very much for joining us for our very first Kiwi College. We're very happy to see so many people with us.